Hello and welcome back. Today I'll be doing the explanation of the poem A Legend of the Northland written by Phoebe Cary, and we'll also discuss the poetic devices used there. Well children, do you remember the things that I told you in the previous video? I spoke to you about caring and sharing. Do you remember? Well children, you should understand that sharing and caring are very noble virtues. We should never hesitate to help others, to feed others, especially the hungry and the poor. Those who don't hesitate and give their best to others and keep the rest for themselves, their rewards are surely going to be great in heaven. And those who are miserly and stingy and think many times before giving something to others, especially the poor and the hungry, I'm telling you, their punishments are going to be very bad. Well, now let's move on with the explanation of the poem, A Legend of the Northland. Well, children, as I told you, this poem is a ballad. A ballad is a story which is told in verse. It may seem lengthy, but it tells us a nice story with a beautiful moral. So let's begin with the explanation. Stanza 1. Away, away in the northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Now in this poem, the poet is telling us a story of a faraway land in the north. Now he's talking about Northland. Now the place is not specified, but we should understand that it could be somewhere close to the North Pole. And it is very, very cold there. The poet says, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter. Now why are the hours of the day few? Because North Pole is away from the equator and it receives very little sunlight. So the daytime is less and the nights are very long. And when the nights are very long in winter, it is very difficult to go to sleep with that chill piercing through you. So the poet says that they cannot sleep them through. Who is this they? The people of the Northland find it difficult to sleep through the night because it is very, very long. And how long do you think a person can sleep? Maybe 8 hours at the most. And still when they wake up, it's night. So it is very, very cold there. Now the second stanza, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. Now children, when we talk of the reindeer and the sledges and snow, what comes to our mind? Yes, Santa Claus comes to mind. But here we are not talking about Santa Claus, but we are talking about another story which took place in the Northland. In this place, they tie the reindeers to the sledges. Now, sledges are those vehicles which are pulled on the ice, which transport people and goods on the ice. And in this place, it is so cold that the mothers or the parents dress the children in nice, warm, furry clothes, clothes made of fur. And these furry clothes make the children look like bears' cubs. So they do everything to make the children be nice and warm. Stanza 3 and 4. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe 'tis true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, you know. Now here they tell them a curious story. Now curious is strange. Now who's this they and them? Now they could mean the elders or the old people of Northland, and them are the children. So generally bedtime stories are told to children, moral value stories are told to children. So some story was told to the children. So the poet says that it was a very strange story and she does not believe if it was true. Now tis is it is. So the poet doesn't believe that the story was true. And yet she wants to tell the story because she feels that there might be a lesson for us to learn. So she says that, and you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Tale is story. Now, so the story goes this way. Once, when the good Saint Peter, now let me tell you who Saint Peter is. Saint Peter is the apostle of Jesus Christ. He is one of the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ, and he is believed to be the first leader of the church. Now, so the poetess tells us, or the story goes this way. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below, when he was here alive on this earth, and he was going about preaching. That means teaching about God, giving his lectures. And just as he did, he didn't, any saintly person would travel from place to place preaching. So he too was going about preaching. So the story happened at that time, and it is related to Saint Peter and somebody. So let's find out what. Now, children, just let me tell you, I've underlined some words here. I think you should make a note of that too. Here I've underlined true, you, below, no. Just to show you that they are rhyming words and they have something to do with the rhyme scheme. So as we are going about with the explanation of the poem, you need to understand the rhyme scheme as well. If you see, these alternate words are rhyming. So they are alternate rhyme scheme is there. I'll put that in the end for you. And also you need to understand some of the poetic devices which are used here. Now in this, if you see, enjambment is used. In our previous videos, I have told you what enjambment is. Enjambment is when a line goes into the other line without a punctuation mark. So you have an enjambment here, and here too you have an enjambment. So as we read the poem, you can see some of the poetic devices used here, and now you need to understand them by yourself. Okay, I'm here to help you out, but I think you need to pay a little more attention and find out by yourself. Okay, so let's move on to stanza 5 and 6. He came to the door of a cottage in travelling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Now, Saint Peter was wandering all over the place, all over the world, you can say, preaching. He was giving lectures, religious lectures, and then he was hungry. He wanted to eat something, and maybe the aroma, the nice smell of freshly baked cakes, you know, uh, tempted him, and he came to the door of a cottage. So he came there, and he saw a little woman was making cakes, and she was baking them on the hearth. Hearth is the fireplace. So he was very hungry. Being faint, he was famished, he was so hungry, and he felt very weak because he had been fasting without food. He did not have anything to eat. So, and now the day was almost done. It was almost in the evening, and he was very, very hungry. So, without hesitating, he asked her from her store of cakes. She had so many cakes there. He asked him to give a single one. He wanted just one cake because he was very hungry. Now, a generous person, without thinking, would have just taken a cake and given to a hungry old man. Now, let's see what this little woman did. And before that, just check the rhyming words here: earth and hearth, done and one. So you should keep this in mind. All right, children. Now let's move to the next stanza. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Therefore she needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. Now with this we come to know the mentality of the woman. She was a miserly woman, and with the least bit of generosity in her. She had a lot many cakes. Only Saint Peter wanted one cake from the store of her cake. So many cakes she had. But what she did, she made a very little cake for him. She didn't give from what she had. She made a very small cake for him. But as that cake was baking, she looked at it and thought, oh my, this cake looks too large to give away. How can I give such a big cake to someone in charity? How selfish she was. Then what did she do? She kneaded another. You know what is the meaning of kneading? Kneading is to prepare a dough with flour. So she kneaded some more flour and made a smaller one, a still smaller one. Then she looked at it. When she turned it over, this looked as large as the first had done. Now, was it really big? No. The woman's miserliness, her stinginess was making her feel like as if the cake, the tiny little cake which she was baking, looked very big because her heart was not large enough to part with her cake. So she made a very small cake, but then she thought that it was too big to be given away. Stanza 9 and 10. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as wafer, but she couldn't part with that. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on a shelf. Now the greedy woman's miserliness, her stinginess is further highlighted in this stanza. So the hungry Saint Peter was waiting when this lady would give her something to eat. But then the previous cake that she had baked, she thought that it was too big to give away. So what did she do? She took a tiny scrap of dough, a very little, scrap is very little amount of dough. And what did she do? She rolled and rolled it flat and she rolled it as thin as a wafer. She baked it. But then even that she could not part with. You know why? She said that her cakes that seemed too small when she herself ate them seemed too large to give away. So you can imagine how greedy and how selfish this lady was. So the thin wafer-like cake too she could not part with. So what did she do? She put them back on the shelf. Children, just check the poetic devices used here. Again, you see the alternate rhyme here, flat and that. And then you have repetition. You see rolled is repeated here. You have alliteration, the repetition of the consonant sound T over here in took and tiny. So you find more alliterations in these stanzas. If you check through all the 16 stanzas, you'll find many alliterations used, enjambment, you can see the rhyme scheme, and you see you also have another rhyme, poetic device here. It is simile. Baked it thin as wafer. Now here the cake which she was baking is compared to a wafer which is very, very thin. So you have many instances of simile as well. So you need to check through the poem carefully and see how many poetic devices have been used here. So let's move on to the next two stanzas now. Stanza 11 and 12. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. Now, what had Saint Peter asked this woman? He had asked her to give her something to eat. She had so many cakes, he asked her for one cake to eat. But this woman was so overcome by greed that she was not willing to part even with a very small, tiny cake. So, now good Saint Peter was very hungry, he was weak, he was, fatigued, he was so tired after roaming all over. And this woman was not willing to part with a small cake, and that was enough to make even a good saint angry. So, the poet says, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Provoke is to cause someone to be angry, and this selfish woman did her best to make even the good Saint Peter angry. Now this divine saint thought that this woman was far too greedy and selfish to be pardoned. He thought that this lady cannot be forgiven for what she has done. And so what did he do? He cursed her. He said that she was far too selfish to remain in human form and have food and shelter to keep her warm. So he said, you are too selfish to live in a human form and to have good food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. So he did not want her to have all these comforts. He felt that she did not deserve such comforts because she was not willing to share a little bit of her comfort also with her fellow human beings. Stanzas 13 and 14. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Now Saint Peter was so angry with the woman that he felt she did not deserve to be in the human form and enjoy all the comforts of life. So he pronounced a curse on her. He said that she would be turned into a bird and will start building nests as the birds do and start boring the hard dry wood all day long to get her scanty food. Now boring is to dig for food, like make hole in something with a tool or by digging. Birds dig with their beaks, and scanty is very little. So he said that she will have to work hard throughout the day and get her very little food. And that too how? She would be transformed into a bird and she has to go on boring, that is digging and digging and digging. Where? In the hard dry wood for her food. Now the minute Saint Peter cursed the woman, up she went through the chimney. She did not even get a chance to speak a word because that very moment she flew up to the roof through the chimney and flew out in the form of a bird. Saint Peter's curse had converted this woman into a woodpecker. Children, why do you think the saint deprived her of her human form and changed her into a bird? Well, because she lacked the basic human values of kindness, charity, generosity, sharing and caring for fellow human beings. So he decided that it was better she work all day long as a bird and gather her very little food. Stanza 15 and 16. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. Now when the woman was turned into a bird, before that she had a scarlet cap on her head. Scarlet is a bright red color. So she had a bright red cap on her head. And that red cap was left on the bird's head in the form of a plume. Now as this woman turned into a bird and flew out of the chimney, at that time she had a scarlet cap, and the scarlet cap remained on the bird's head in the form of a plume. But all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. Again, simile is used here. Black, the color of her body. Her clothes were burned, so the bird's body was black. The color is compared with the coal, the color of coal. Legend says that people who live in the countryside countryside is the village, villages, rural areas. Even the little school children have seen her in the woods. They've seen this bird in the woods, in the forest areas. They see that she stays there all day and she keeps digging for food. She keeps boring and boring for food. The worms she has to dig out from the barks of the trees, and from the trunks of the big trees. She has to keep boring them to find her the insects for her food. So it is said that she lives in the trees till this very day. So in Northland, when a woodpecker is seen boring for food, then the elders tell the children that was in fact a woman who was very, very greedy and selfish, and Saint Peter cursed her and she turned into a bird. Now let's look at the poetic devices used in the poem, children. Now in this poem, alliteration is used a lot, and then enjambment, repetition, simile, and rhyme. The rhyme scheme, as the alternate words rhyme, the rhyme scheme is AB, CB. It's the same throughout the poem. And now I would like you to be a little proactive and mark these things in your textbooks so that it will be easy for you to identify. Now I'm not going to tell you what the alliterations are there in the stanzas, but I want you to find them yourselves. I'll just tell you what an alliteration is. Now you all know that an alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of adjacent words. Now we find a lot of alliteration in these stanzas. Stanza 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 13 and 16. For example, in the beginning, in the first stanza, you can find the alliteration of the sound the, that and they. In the second one again you find they, the, alliteration sound the, and then look like, l sound. So that way you find alliteration in all these stanzas. Next we come to enjambment. Enjambment is when a line moves on to the next line without a punctuation mark. So you find enjambment in these stanzas. Stanza 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 and 11. Like in the first stanza you have, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Now there is no punctuation mark after winter. Then we have repetition. We have repetition used in stanza 1, 9, 13 and 16. Now repetition is the repetition of some words or phrases in the poem or in a particular stanza, in a particular line, which the poets do for emphasis. Now in the first stanza you have away, away. In the ninth stanza you have rolled and rolled. In the 13th stanza you have boring and boring. And again in the 16th stanza you have boring and boring. And then you have simile. You have simile in stanza 2, 9 and 15. Now simile is the comparison of two dissimilar things to prove a particular point of comparison. In stanza 2 you have the children being compared to the bear's cubs. In the ninth one you have cake being compared with wafer. And in the 15th stanza you can see the color of the woman's clothes being compared with coal after it was burnt, when she changed into a bird. And then I already told you the rhyme scheme. So these are the poetic devices used in the poem, children, and I hope that you look into your textbooks, mark them, and still if you have some doubts, we will meet again in our online class and you can clarify all your doubts. Alright, I hope you have understood the explanation of the poem well. So with this, we come to the end of this poem, and always remember, greed never goes unpunished. Like how in this poem, Saint Peter cursed and punished the greedy woman for her uncharitable behavior. So make generosity and charity your best friends and always be loving and caring. So until we meet again, take good care of yourselves. Goodbye and God bless.